Hey, this is the Better Life Podcast with Brandon Turner and Cam Cathcart. This is a special Friday episode we call Cashflow Fridays, where we interview people on one specific investment strategy that produces phenomenal cash flow in this market. This show is meant to be short, sweet, to the point, so you can implement it right away into your life. Without further ado, let's get to the episode. You know, one of the hardest lessons I've learned in building my real estate business is this. I can't do everything on my own. And trust me, I have tried. I was that guy wearing all the hats: acquisition, property management, marketing. I even tried my hand at bookkeeping, which, by the way, is not a great idea. It was not until I embraced the art of delegation that things really started to take off for me. I actually remember hiring my very first virtual assistant. And then I realized right away, why did I wait so long to do this? And honestly, I was amazed at how great they were. They're better than me at most things they did. And in fact, that first VA is still with me today, 10 years later. Now, suddenly I had time to focus on bigger picture things, scaling the business, finding more deals, and honestly spending more time with the family. And that is why I'm excited to tell you about our sponsor today, HireTrainVA.com. So these guys have cracked the code on finding top tier virtual assistants for the real estate investing world. They go through a brutal selection process. Only 1% to 2% of applicants make it through, so you know you're getting the best of the best. And they've got this really cool draft board where you can actually handpick from the top talent that they've already sourced and vetted. It's like having your own personal dream team at your fingertips. And if you're unsure where to start or how to delegate right, they've got you covered with a free guide on 100+ tasks that you can start delegating today. Just head over to HireTrainVA.com. You know, I believe in them so much that their owner, Valentina Brega, it's a friend of mine. I actually brought her on the podcast a while back. It's on episode 42, so if you want to check that out, go listen to a masterclass on how to hire and work with virtual assistants. So hey, if you want the fast track on hiring your first VA, but you don't know where to start, just shoot me a DM over on Instagram with the word delegate. Just delegate, and I'll hook you up with some of the same resources that transformed my business. Stop wearing all the hats and scale faster. Hire a VA, free up your time, and scale your business. Go to HireTrainVA.com or hit me up on Instagram with the word delegate. It's time to take that next step in your business. Now, back to the show. Dr. Alex Schloe. What's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Brandon. Hey, Cam. How's it going? Big fans. Happy to be on the show. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Good to have you. So I know you as a husband, a father, Air Force physician, Christian, and entrepreneur. That's what I know you as. I know you help physicians achieve financial independence through real estate. You're going to help a lot more than just physicians today, which is awesome. You're the co-founder of the RAL Room, which we're going to get into what that means as you transform the assisted living industry. You host the Physicians and Properties podcast, passionate about family, lifelong learning. And you love your loved ones, man. You're dad and husband. I love that. I know you got some assisted living stuff, and that's what we're going to dig into today. And apparently you can make $3,000 to $5,000 a home, which is awesome. I want to find in cash flow. I'm going to learn more about that here in a bit. But before we get any further, why don't we jump in with the fast four? Number one, what is your niche?
Awesome. Residential assisted living.
Is that all you do, or do you do other things as well? Or did you dabble first?
Yeah. I dabbled first in a bit of everything. We got a long-term rental at a prior duty station at Eglin Air Force Base near Destin, Florida. We had multiple short-term rentals. We kind of liquidated some of that portfolio. We still have one. And then we house hack our basement, actually. I'm a firm believer that everybody should house hack, even doctors. So we house hack our basement in Colorado Springs, and that covers mortgage, taxes, and insurance if you average it out through the year. So then we're able to put that into more deals and more opportunities, which is awesome.
Love that. My house is like almost a $4 million house, and I'm house hacking my house in Maui. So it's like, I'm a big believer too. Like there's no limit to like house hacking. You could do it at any level. So I'm a big fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Where do you invest at?
Yeah, so we have our short-term rentals in Colorado. I live in Colorado, long-term rental in Florida, and then predominantly for residential assisted living right now, we have 5 homes in Arizona. We just started apparently the first residential assisted living fund and raised some capital for an operator. So we have a equity stake in a private lending scenario in 3 homes in Wisconsin. And then we're kind of looking at partnering with him further throughout the Midwest. There's a lot of opportunity in the Midwest for residential assisted living homes as well.
I agree.
Awesome.
Question number 4, and this is kind of a 2-part question. I'm kind of adjusting this as we go because, Cash Flow Fridays are kind of a new thing for us. The question I always ask is why, would you recommend this niche to others? Where I want to shift it to is, and why? I'm assuming yes, but why do you love residential assisted living, and would you recommend it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all probably have that nursing home experience. I know I definitely did. Actually, my
Yeah.
first W-2 job was working in a nursing home. I was like the maintenance man and the cook and all the above. And so I saw what that experience was like and saw a lot of things I wish I never saw. So that was kind of the initial start. And I, kind of got the wheels turning. This is back 14 years. I was 14 years old
Yeah.
or so. And then that kind of, pivoted through to now where we invest predominantly in that. I think there's an enormous need. We're already 1 million beds short for residential assisted living as of right now. And by 2029, they're projecting that to be 1.3 million beds short. And more baby boomers are aging. There's 59 million baby boomers. And as more and more of them are aging, there's 77 million baby boomers. 7 out of 10 of them will require long-term care. 59 million of them will ultimately be looking for long-term care. And frankly, like the big box nursing home environment is just not ideal. We've all had that experience. I've had that experience as a doctor going in and like seeing the caregiver taking care of 30 people and the place smelling like urine and just folks not getting the care that they need. So
And
residential assisted living, yeah.
we all have that. We all remember what COVID did to those places, and we all have this like I would never put my parents in one of those now,
Right.
knowing how bad COVID was in a lot of those nursing homes.
Yeah.
Yeah, never. Small fact that I don't think I've ever mentioned before on a podcast. I used to host bingo afternoons at my local nursing home when I was in high school. So I was a bingo caller at a nursing home. I did it like once a month. I'd go there.
Dude,
That's
I feel
awesome.
like that would be for somebody that's looking for single family houses. I talk a lot about like senior living, but that would be like a really great way to find direct to seller leads. Hosting a
Go to
bingo
a
night
nursing home.
because
Yeah.
they've all got houses. If they haven't sold it before they moved into the nursing home.
So you're saying
Yeah.
is somebody should be a bingo announcer, and then in the middle it'll be like, B7, who's got a house for sale that's sitting empty right now?
Exactly.
Yeah. Someone needs to.
Exactly.
Yeah, someone's got to do that. Send us a video, tag
Love
us on
it.
Instagram.
Yeah. But
That's awesome.
so Brandon is he's newer to podcasting, and so he skipped number 3.
Oh,
so
did I really?
Yes.
Oh yeah, whoops.
It's only your first or second time
My
doing
first
this.
second
So.
podcast. Totally skipped that one.
So the question number 3 in the fast 4 is what kind of like cash on cash return can you get if you buy one of these deals? What are you looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll talk in cash flow, maybe if that's okay for Cash Flow Friday. But typically, you can look at these homes as a lease to operator model, which is what we focus on predominantly. That's going to cash flow anywhere from about $3,000 to $5,000 per month, depending on level of care, how big the home is, quality, number of residents, all those sorts of things. But if you are also owning the real estate and operating the home, you can cash flow $10,000 to $15,000 per month. So, I mean, that's financial freedom from one home potentially that's run well, fully occupied.
Gotcha. And how much money are you typically like leaving tied up into these deals?
It depends. When we first started, we were bootstrapping and buying all of them ourselves. So the first 3, we had 25% down commercial financing for these. And those were also leased to operator. Last 2 we bought together, those were seller financing. One of them was really cool, off-market deal. We sent a bunch of direct mailers. We can probably talk more about that later if you guys want to. But we sent a bunch of direct mail and got seller financing 6% down, and we raised the down payment. So it was beautiful.
Wow.
So amazing deal.
That's awesome, man. Well, on that note, then let's actually shift to that. Let's talk about finding and financing these. We'll start with finding. So, how have you found your residential assisted living facility so far? And could you actually maybe before that, let's back off one. What kind of facility? Like, what is it? What are you buying? Are they houses? Or are they like facilities?
Yeah, it's
and
a
then
great
how do you
question.
find them?
Yeah, great question, Brandon. I feel like a lot of times folks just picture assisted living home as that big nursing home. This is the opposite of that. So a residential assisted living home is typically a single family home, residential home in a community that is a more intimate setting, typically houses about 6 to 16 residents. It depends which state you're operating in, how many you can have. For example, in Arizona, the max number of residents is 10. In Texas, it's 16. In Wisconsin, the homes that we did, one of them is 20. So it really just depends where you're at from that perspective. But these homes, the key difference is they offer a way more personalized approach. They have a higher caregiver ratio, typically like 1 to 5, 1 to 8. And it's that home-like atmosphere. So it really helps the seniors, really helps the residents feel as if they're still living in more of an independent home-like setting with a closer knit community.
So are you having to go like buy mansions to do this?
Not necessarily. You certainly could, and there's folks who focus like largely in the extreme luxury space,
Uh-huh.
where they have like 10 private bedrooms and bathrooms. Typically, when I'm talking with folks about assisted living, we'll say, "Hey, you want to have the single story ideally. You can make it
Mhm.
work with 2 stories, elevator, stair chair, have your more mobile residence at the top. But typically you want to have single story that helps from a mobility issue, access issue for the residents, as many bedrooms and bathrooms as you can, and about 300 square feet per resident. So if you're looking for the max of 10 residents in Arizona, 3,000 square feet will likely work out with enough space for folks to be able to interact
Mhm.
and have some of their own space. Certain states, Cam, will have different requirements in terms of, well, you have to have a 140 square foot bedroom to have 2 occupants, or an 80 square foot bedroom
Mm.
to have one. That's all going to be location specific, and you'll need to look into that. But you don't necessarily have to have a mansion. But the 1,500 square foot 2 story home is not going to be a good option for
Yeah.
assisted living. And we get that question all the time.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool, man. All right. So how are you finding these deals? I know you mentioned direct
Yeah.
mail. Is that the primary?
Yeah, well, right now, we're finding deals largely through partnerships. We have a
Mhm.
residential assisted living Facebook group that we started back in November, really just to help us find operators for more of our deals, and that exploded. I think there's 11,000 people in there now,
Wow.
and it's just realtors, lenders, investors, operators, everything in that group. It's been absolutely amazing, and so some deals have come through that. Right now, we're in that situation where we have so many people sending us deals, and we're trying to work on a couple other projects like the Row Room Mastermind that we don't have time to analyze all of them. So that's kind of where we're at this point. But before that, when we first got started, which would be more helpful for folks, was we looked for a realtor who specialized in residential assisted living. And my partner Luke, who is in the War Room Mastermind with me, shout out to Dave Perret and his mastermind. It's incredible. Luke came in, we had a hot seat, and Luke's like, "Hey man, I'm going to buy residential assisted living." And that was with our squad on Tuesday nights. And he told us about it. We're like, "Man, this sounds too good to be true. You're going to cash flow 3 to 5 grand on one house." And so he did. He bought it, and he did, and everything turned out as he had planned. And then he brought me in, and we started buying them together. And he's one of our partners now. My other partner, Charlie. And so he had already built out the team with this amazing realtor in Arizona, and that's what she specializes in. That her group, the Stacy Dragos group, that's all they do is sell assisted living homes. And I think that they were one of the top one of the top realtor groups in all of Arizona. And so those folks, those specialty realtors, have so much information and access in a Rolodex of operators. They know the regulations, they know the zoning, and they know the homes that are for sale. So they brought us a couple off market deals. And then the last one we did do direct mail to a list, and we're able to get some deal flow traction through that.
Amazing. So I've got a thought and then a question. One, I just love what you said about you're finding a lot of your deals through a Facebook group that you created. Because I people all the time ask, how do you find deals? How do you find deals? One of the best ways that I found deals was I created a free wholesaler mastermind. And then naturally those people just brought me good deals. And so I love that. I think that's super important for anybody that's listening. You can always find deals. The second question though that I have is you're talking about assisted living, like the regulations, that seems like a huge headache and a lot of red tape because you're dealing with elderly people, and there's probably a lot of rules and regulations around that. How do you handle that?
Yeah, that is the tricky piece. And those regulations vary so much state dependent. They vary so much location dependent. I feel like that's kind of a cop out answer. I apologize, but they do. Some overall kind of overarching themes that exist. There's typically occupancy limits, which we talked about, max
Mhm.
number of residents you can have in a licensed home. There's a lot of care regulations that exist. We could talk about that forever, so I'll just leave that where that is. But and then level of care. Typically going back to kind of the intro of residential assisted living, a residential assisted living home resident is typically someone who's fairly independent, but they need help with their activities of daily living. They need help with bathing, toileting, cooking, clothing, getting dressed, those sorts of things. They don't need extensive medical care. So there's not a lot of medical care happening in these
Mhm.
homes, but there is like a niche within a niche of like memory care, which we have one of those, which is for patients with dementia and those sorts of things. So within those subtypes, there's also different regulations. But some big things to think about is accessibility issues. Like typically need a wheelchair ramp. You typically need grab bars in the shower, grab bars at the toilet. You need widened door frames so you can get a wheelchair in. You need at least one roll-in shower, depending on how big the home is. You need a fire suppression system, which and sprinkler system, which honestly, that has been a huge headache for us. So if folks are listening, if you don't mind, a couple tips and tricks for fire suppression is one, it's painful. Two, get numerous quotes. So you're going to need a sprinkler system most commonly, and a fire alarm monitoring system. Get multiple quotes. We were getting quotes varying from like $30,000 to $10,000 for the same system. And then you're going to also have to look at the hookups for the suppression system. So one of our homes had a 3/4 inch line and meter. They're like, hey, you need to replace the whole water line and the meter to 1 inch. And we're like, but the pressure supports it, the flow supports it. Like the engineer said, everything's good from that perspective. Why? And they're like, well, that's just what the regulations are. We just have to do that. It was going to cost like $30,000, require a bunch of pavement to be dug up, all this work. We just kept bugging the city and the local zoning office. And we're like, hey, this makes no sense. This makes no sense. This makes no sense. And then finally they were just like, okay, it looks fine. And they signed off on it and everything was fine. Yeah. So hopefully save folks like 20 grand there. But yeah, so that can be a stressful process. And then the states that are more, have less of these homes. Like we were working on one in South Carolina. We were going to renovate into a memory care home. They haven't really figured out how they want to work assisted living. So we talked with the zoning office. We had all the plans drawn up. I mean, everything was all set. And we hopped on with the architect for for South Carolina Department of Health. And she told our architect, she's like, just stop talking. We're going to classify this as like a 6-unit property, and you're going to need all fire resistant drywall and everything else, which would have been tearing the house down to the studs and impossible. So it just really depends. But surrounding yourself with the right people and the right network who understand those regulations and the zoning and so forth can be a game changer and get you started so much faster.
Very cool, man. All right, how about financing these? What kind of financing have you done, and what can somebody do if they want to buy one? What do they got to come with a down payment? How do you do it?
Great question. Yeah, we were doing commercial financing originally, 25% down. It was a 5-to-1 adjustable rate, 25-year amortization. That was originally what we were getting. And then we've been working with some DSCR lenders as well. And that's what we were going to use on the South Carolina home. They were all for it because the cash flow is incredible. I mean, they cash flow better than an Airbnb. And so after we explained the process and what it was and that this wasn't like a nursing home, then they were understanding on that. So DSCR would be an option. And that'd still probably be 20 to 30% down depending. If you're going to own the real estate and own the operation, you can do SBA lending, which is amazing. Of course, 10% down. They'll wrap, your startup costs and everything else into the home, including renovation. So that's a really great option if folks are going to own and operate. Can be a little bit tricky if you have no experience. So partnering with somebody who does can help you from that perspective. And then, of course, the creative financing opportunities as well.
Awesome. Can you give me an example of a deal that you've done recently of just how you found it, the financing behind it, and then what it's cash flowing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you our latest deal that we did in Arizona. This was the one that we did direct mail for. So it's an 8-bedroom, 4-bath, about 3,000 square feet, 3,026, I think. Mm-hmm. It was recently renovated and operating as an assisted living home. But the operators were ready to retire. They were burnt out. They just wanted some cash flow. So we sent out 648 letters to property owners in Phoenix. We had about 45 folks that responded back. We had 3 that were like, hey, this is actually a deal that pencils out and makes sense. And we got under contract on 3. Ultimately, we ended up closing this one. And initially, they just emailed back. We hopped in a phone call and they said, hey, we just want some cash flow. So we talked with them about seller financing and they were interested in that. So we purchased the home and the business for $740,000. It was the financing terms are a 10-year balloon, 30-year amortization, 6% interest rate, and they only wanted $45,000 for a down payment. So 6% down, which was amazing. Principal, taxes, insurance, CapEx, saving for CapEx, which is minimal because the tenant tends to cover that, but we still save for that, is about $5,000 all in monthly expenses. And this one is a little bit less cash flow, but of course our cash on cash return is much higher. But right now it's leased out for $7,900 per month on a 5-year lease, 3% annual increase. Cash flows $2,700 per month, and our cash on cash return annually is about 77.5%.
Jeez,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
that's
So
amazing.
So real quick on that direct mail that you were sending out, were you sending those out to assisted living operators already, or were you just identifying here's some houses that we think would work as assisted living?
Cam, this is really cool. So I was just on one day up too late, messing around, and I was trying to find just a list of assisted living homes, and I was able to find a list of all the operating LLCs in the state of Arizona. And then we were able to use a VA who was able to, look up the LLCs, which had the addresses. She pulled all that information. Then we got this massive list of assisted living homes that were operated in Arizona. We picked the areas we wanted to invest in. We narrowed that down to the 648 that we sent, and then we mailed those off. So it was awesome. So probably able to repeat that in other states.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's really really smart, and it illustrates just that point of like the better your list is, the more like defined your list is. Like getting 40 some calls on 600 some like letters, like that's incredible because it was so targeted. And then it's you're not just sending out thousands of letters to random things that you don't know if they're you're sending to business people saying, hey, you want to send your business do you want to sell your business? So beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, and if I may, Brandon, the cool thing about this too is like the silver tsunami exists for residential assisted living and folks going into these homes, but the silver tsunami also exists for all these business owners, all these mom and pop business owners who own these assisted living homes, who are now trying to figure out what's next. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think, with direct mail to be able to get some great deals for this and work that seller financing piece.
Yeah, I'm such a big fan of like making that your thing, like your niche. Like we look for sellers who will sell seller financing because there's a large percentage of older people who are freaked out about dumping all their money in the stock market right now with the economy, and they'd rather just hold paper on the business or the property that they own. I think that if people can get really good at that, I mean, like friends like Gabe Hamill, who Cam, you and I know real well. Gabe's built his whole portfolio almost entirely off seller financing, just because he's just good at it. Once you learn how to talk the talk and talk to people, so many people are open to that option. So
and not only with Gabe is it seller finance, but I think that on almost everything, he hasn't even had to bring money to the table.
It's no money seller financing on a lot of it.
Come on, I hate you.
That's awesome. Yeah, we just sent the letter too that was like, hey, this is how much you're going to make in interest by doing seller financing. This is what your monthly cash flow is going to look like. This is how much you're saving in realtor commissions and all stuff. And then once they were able to see that, I mean, they're like, hey, this makes absolute sense. Like, why would we do it any other way?
Yeah, my brain always goes to like the marketing, like how I'd market that. And somebody might clean this up because it's not very good right now because I'm just making it up. But like the idea of like convert to guaranteed, like that, there's a better phrase there, but there's something there that like if your company name was like converttoguaranteed.com, right? And it's like, what does that mean? You're converting your risky rental property to guaranteed rent because you are seller financing. You get a fixed amount. So like, or rentals to guaranteed, or there's something there. I think that I think would appeal to a lot of people. NoMoreToilets.com, something like that. That would be like,
there you go.
That's actually a funny idea. It's NoMoreToilets.com.
I'm buying that domain right now.
Yeah. Oh man, I was working on it here.
All right, man. Where do you see the future of residential assisted living going?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that the future is super bright. I mean, I obviously am biased, but I really think this is probably the best opportunity in real estate right now, especially from a cash flow perspective, but most importantly, for making a huge difference in an area that there's a huge need. I mean, like we talked about, there's so many really terrible assisted living homes and really terrible environments. And we have the opportunity to not only create an incredible environment for personalized care for these residents, but there's also that huge supply demand mismatch that exists. And so it's just awesome. I mean, I everyone I talk to, I'm like, this just makes so much sense. And I think medical folks who have been in the trenches, and we understand that too, also see that. I mean, physicians are just kind of salivating over that. And the most popular episode on my podcast is all the residential assisted living episodes. And it's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. You know, as you know, Open Door Capital, we're big fans of it. We don't do it yet, but I'm sure at some point we will. Yeah, I just see, again, like you called it the silver tsunami. I think I've heard that as well. It's like there's so much coming. I'm excited about that.
Awesome.
All right,
what is the biggest challenge that you see in this industry?
Yeah, I think there's a few. So regulations we hit on that's tricky. It's not really the regulation perspective of short-term rentals. I'm concerned they're not going to allow it anymore or anything like that. It's just figuring out what you have to do to make that home work. The biggest thing from a lease to operator perspective, which is what we do predominantly, which is way more passive in the assisted living space, is finding the right operator. That's the linchpin. You really need to vet your operator very well. It's a partnership. You need to make sure that one, they're committed to taking care of residents and they're committed to the business for the right reasons. There's a lot of money to be made in assisted living, and sometimes there's some folks that are trying to take advantage of that, which is terrible. So really finding the right operator is super important from that perspective. And then the big thing too is just getting started. I think there's enough barrier to entry for these that folks are really worried about the regulations piece and, oh, do I have to be the one that's actually taking care of the residents, which is not the case. And once you can kind of get through that mindset, it's such a great opportunity.
So does the operator handle most of kind of that red tape that you guys lease to?
Yeah, absolutely. So we try and, we make sure the home can be licensed, is zoned appropriately. And if you're just getting started, it'd be easier to find a home that was previously operating as assisted living, already renovated, already ready to go, because that's going to help you with a lot of that red tape. But then the operator, they're responsible for doing all the licensing. They're responsible for all the day-to-day care. The beautiful thing, too, is it's a commercial lease, so they're responsible for maintenance and all those sorts of things as well. So it helps from a CapEx perspective. We're responsible for mortgage, taxes, insurance, the roof, and we have property insurance on the physical house. And then we do provide a home warranty just to help them with any, larger maintenance expenses that they may have. But it's a pretty awesome way to be fairly passive once you get a great operator in there.
Yeah. Do you have any liability if the operator just sucks and doesn't treat the tenants well? Do you have any sort of liability on that? I feel like that could be dangerous, especially dealing with elderly people.
Yeah, absolutely. They're required to have extensive liability policies, show proof of it to us, and we're also on that liability policy. In theory, the risk to us is minimal since we're just providing the actual house. But yeah, we are also, we require that, and that's definitely something you want to make sure that is understood and well written in the lease.
Love it.
Cool, man.
Love it.
All right, next question. Is that you or me, Cam?
That is you. We have not asked the secret question yet.
Secret. What is the secret to success in residential assisted living?
Oh man, that's a good one. I had one secret, which was tactical, which was the fire suppression system, water meter, water line, reaching out to your fire inspector in the city to see. So that was my one secret. But another one, really, honestly, and it's similar to all real estate. Investing is your network is so important. I mean, especially in this, because there's so many moving pieces with realtors and operators and finding caregivers and, who's going to cook the food and activities and all these other things. So really having a great network and a great group of folks who can help you and folks that have gone before you and can pull you up is so important, especially in this space.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And last question. And, when we talk about stuff like this, it's always so fascinating. We could go forever. Unfortunately, we can't. So somebody that's listening to this, what would you say, like they want to learn more about this or even start doing it? What would the first step be for that person?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, we are starting a mastermind called the Row Room Assisted Living Mastermind that will launch before this episode comes out, likely. So a little biased in saying that, but I think mastermind communities, we've all been a part of them. We all, have them, are so important, especially because in residential assisted living, there's like one or two avenues you can take. One would be the course model, which you're paying, $2,500 to $4,000, probably outdated material, no support, no actual documents or anything like that will help you along the way. And the one-on-one kind of mentor model, where then you're paying like 30 to 40,000 and still kind of, it is what it is, And so we really found in the middle is kind of a lot of need in that sweet spot. So we created the mastermind where we partnered with experts, brought them in, and in every kind of any kind of need that you would have in real estate, from lending, realtors, operators, caregivers, marketing, all these things all in one area called the Round Room Mastermind. So I would say join that. We also have a free 10-step guide to get started investing in residential assisted living, which I sent over the link. Hopefully it can be in the show notes. That's a great way to get started as well.
What is the first step in that 10-step guide?
First step in the 10-step guide is figuring out, one, do you want to invest in residential assisted living, which is most important because it's hard. There's a lot of people out there who make it sound like it's really easy and you're going to get all this cash flow and, that's that. And it's not, it's hard. So you need to figure out, is this something for you?
Love that.
Dude, amazing. Thank you. I mean, I love assisted living. I think it's a phenomenal niche, something I'm excited to talk more about in the future. So thanks for sharing your wisdom today, man. It's been really good to get to know you.
Thank you so much. Awesome.
Dr. Schloe.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.
And that, my people, is the show. Thank you for tuning in. And hey, before you go, if you enjoyed the episode or if you enjoy the show in general, please consider leaving us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We really do value your feedback, and we read the comments. We make future decisions about topics and guests and everything else. Plus, it helps us reach more people the more reviews we get. And last but not least, please head over to social media. Consider friending and following and subscribing to all that stuff at Better Life and my personal page at Beardy Brandon, Instagram, YouTube, and everywhere else. Thank you again for listening. I'm honored that you would bring me along on your journey toward building wealth through real estate investing without losing your soul.